During the pandemic, I left Milan and returned to my parents' house in the countryside of Tuscany, near Florence. While spending time at home, I went with my mom to her attic. She's a true fashionista, passionate about beautiful and trendy things. I always knew she had a lot of clothes, shoes, sunglasses, leather coats, bags. But it wasn't until that day, when I unpacked boxes with her, that I realized the immense quantity of her purchases over the years. Each garment had a story behind. Like a fashionable blazer she wore in 1987 for her brother's wedding. She was only 19 at that time, and vividly remember going to her family in a fashion boutique, feeling like she was a model in a runway show. She wore that blazer over 100 times before putting it in the attic and forgetting about it. The very next day, I started wearing that blazer. My style has evolved over time, and now I find myself much more aligned with my mom's style when she was my age, rather than the latest trends. I began to appreciate good quality clothes and vintage pieces that show the sign of time and reflect the life behind each piece of clothing. It made me wonder, could there be hidden gems in other people's attic? Or perhaps my friend could discover the style and value in wearing vintage pieces like I did? During those pandemic months at my parents' house, I had the opportunity to reflect on my own experience working for huge multinational beauty and fashion companies. I realized that I'm no longer aligned with their compulsive approach to consumption. Everything was produced and sold in excess. Why should the heirlooms I discover in my mom's attic remain hidden? Why should we buy something new when we can give new life to existing products? I want you to join me in visualizing the impact of fashion in our world. Did you know that each of us produce 11.3 kilos of fashion waste per year? This means that Europe alone generates 5.8 million tons of textile waste. And this is equivalent to the size of 25 large cruise ships or 10 Burj Khalifas, the tallest skyscraper in the world. After we throw or give away our unwanted garments, where do they end up? Raise your hand if you think they are going to the needy people in your local community. Raise your hand if you think they are going to the closest landfill. Unfortunately, this is not often the case. A recent investigation showed the journey these garments take. By adding a little tracker on a skirt, they were able to see that it traveled 15,000 miles before being burned or dumped. Many of these garments end up in different places all over the world, from the desert in Chile to the market in Ghana. And the huge amount of pieces they receive daily make it impossible to handle or use them, leading to the creation of open-air dumps. Imagine that the small municipality of Alto Hospicio in Chile was forced to bury all of these clothes in order to mitigate the risk of fires. The environmental and social impact of our wardrobe is much larger than we think. As you can see, this compulsive approach to consumption generates a never-ending cycle that deeply contaminates our ecosystem and our world. But even the European Commission is taking action. Soon, all fashion producers will be responsible of the life cycle of their products. I no longer want to contribute to the human and environmental damage caused by the fashion industry. I started my change by using what is already made. In the 1980s, there was a famous American slogan, reduce, reuse, recycle, which was used to educate Americans about the importance of recycling household waste. It's time to apply this slogan to fashion waste reduction too. We must encourage what is called circular fashion. Circular fashion is the process that guarantees the life cycle of a product from the beginning to the end. Creating, using, discarding, and reusing fashion creates a system of cycles that completely change the logic behind clothing production, distribution, and sales. To avoid this, what can we do as individuals? Well, if you love the thrill of unique pieces, buying and wearing vintage is the best choice. These garments are not only cool, but also beneficial for people and planet. They often come at a lower price, allow you to look unique, and support local businesses. I also suggest high quality over fast fashion. During the last wedding I attended, I wore a beautiful dark blue dress that my grandfather bought for my grandmother 50 years ago. And the results were extraordinary. The high quality silk still seemed new. And guess what? I generated zero waste. And you can do the same. But there's even more that we can do. Do you remember when you share clothes with your best friends? Or that specific age when you would try on your mom's shoes over and over again? You were already engaged in a circular practice, a clothes swap. Clothes swap parties are a fun and sustainable way to refresh your wardrobe while reducing fashion waste. They are based on the principle of sharing and reusing. Everyone brings unwanted or unused garments to exchange with others. So it's a great way to save money, renew your wardrobe, and socialize, of course. What I've mentioned is not enough to stop the excessive production and consumption of fashion. I believe we need to revolutionize the whole system of fashion. Take a look inside your wardrobe. All of those garments that you haven't worn in the last year, they don't need to be thrown away. They can be revamped. And I learned this, again, thanks to my grandmother. She's practicing upcycling. Upcycling is a creative process that extends the life of a garment by adding a stylish twist. She was used to take the thread from an old sweater and knit a new one for me. I remember when I was a teenager, she repaired pre-loved garments from my mom and tailored them to suit me. And now she's still doing the same with my younger cousin, readjusting an old garment she made with a more contemporary style. While some clothes may not fit our current style, they might hold sentimental value and be the perfect candidate for new life thanks to upcycling or repairing practices. This is what fashion must look like in our future. And this is an opportunity not only for all of us, but for all fashion luxury companies, all independent brands, and all fashion retailers that every single day have to deal with a huge amount of overstock inside their store or warehouses. I'm not saying, of course, that they have to stop clothing production, but at least rethink the entire process. What can they do? At the end of each season, they can take their overstock and give to it a new life through upcycling. Embrace timeless pieces that outlast trends, because trends Rise quickly, peak, and then fade. Choose upcycling and create your own fashion narrative. This is how we can reduce fashion waste without compromising style. I ask you all to be part of the revolution. You have more power than you believe.